Miigwech, Byrne. We'll start with roll call, please.
Kathy Chavers,
Here.
Tara Gishik,
Here.
Travis Morrison,
Here.
Shane Drift,
Nino Ma.
Robert Moore.
Here.
Next, we will have approval of the agenda.
I'd like to, ask for a, discussion to be added regarding the, burnt houses. One of our, Kichia elders, brought it up to me.
We can add that under other with Luke.
Okay.
Discussion. Okay.
Then I have a couple things. Indian child policy with Miranda, and then Tracy Dagan has some powwow stuff to talk about.
Do we want to put the powwow stuff under you, Luke, after the burned houses?
Sure.
Okay. Put Tracy there. Okay, any other additions to the agenda? If not, I'll call for a motion to approve with those additions.
Move.
Moved by Shane,
Second.
second by Travis. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, silent, motion carried. Next, we have approval of the meeting minutes from April 19, 2023.
I just have a comment on, page 3. Moved by Shane Drift, second by Robert Moyer to approve resolution 98-2023 MOU Voice Work Grand Portage Fond du Lac Bands and U.S. Forest Service. What the MOU was signed yesterday up in Grand Portage. And to add on to what I said up there is that when our chiefs signed those treaties years ago, they did not know what they were signing because they didn't speak English well. They didn't know English. But their intentions were good. When we signed that MOU, you know, it's to our benefit as well. And it felt good yesterday when we did that, when the tribe signed that with the U.S. Forest Service. And it's another step in trying to protect the 1854 treaty area, a small portion of it. Miigwech.
Yeah, that was a very historic signing yesterday with all the three bands there, Grand Portage, Bois Forte, and Fond du Lac. And it was a really good day, really good event. And the band looks forward to working with the U.S. Forest Service in a collaborative partnership way, shoulder by shoulder. So it was very good. Any other questions on the minutes? If not, I'll call for a motion to approve the April 19, 2023, with maybe some corrections, because I see on that one statement that Shane read, it said Grant Portage. It should say Grand Portage. So maybe with some corrections in spelling.
I just have one question.
Oh, go ahead.
Once signed, make available to band members to read. So where are the avenues that they're gonna, a website, in the paper? How are they gonna read that? How are we getting that out?
The what? I'm sorry.
The MOU.
Oh, the MOU,
Or is the Forest Service gonna do that, or is Bois Forte gonna do it, or?
we would have to do it ourselves. Each member of each tribe received a copy of the MOU yesterday. So I did bring it back with me this morning, and we can put that on the website. And it's rather lengthy, so it might be too long for the Bois Forte News. We can check on that too, but we do have a copy of the MOU, and they are making a plaque of the day and the signing. So for each band. Okay. Any other questions or comments on the minutes? If not, I'll call for a motion to approve the April 19, 2023 meeting minutes.
I'll move.
Moved by Tara. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Shane. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, silent, motion carried. On the consent agenda, we have two items. Approved resolution 101, 2023 MB Customs OEO shelter for 400. And B was approved service line agreement with Lake Country Power for OEO shelter 400. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move.
Moved by Travis. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Robert. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, silent, motion carried. Okay, next we have Carol Burr. Good morning, Carol. Just make sure you turn your red button on. Yeah, it's on the right.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay. So I'm here to present the resolution for approval to submit a grant application to the Department of Energy. It's a grid deployment office that has a grant announcement for preventing outages and enhancing the resilience of the electric grid formula grants. So we have everything ready, just tweaking the narrative. We want to submit it as soon as possible because it's not due until the end of May. That way we can get any feedback if we have to change anything, add anything, so. But I need the resolution approved prior to submittal.
I see on the resolution, under now therefore be it resolved, be it further resolved that there's a match commitment. Is that what that is? Is
Yes.
the 15,247, and that allocation will come out of the fund bands allocation under the American Rescue Plan Act, state local fiscal recovery fund. So that's a match requirement for the grant application.
Correct.
Okay,
And the total grant is 101,642, so.
okay. Due the end of May, you said, right?
Yep.
Any questions for Carol? If not, I'll call for a motion to approve resolution number 102, 2023, Bois Forte Department of Energy preventing outages and enhancing the resilience of the electric grid formula grants. That's a long title.
Move.
Moved by Travis. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Tara. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, silent, motion carried.
Thank you.
Good luck with the grant.
Yes, and then we'll be sending you some documents that need signature. It's the SF 424. It's the normal documents that with grant.gov.
Okay, good.
And
Make
then-
which.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a
guys.
good day.
Yep,
Keep up
you
the good work. Okay, next we have Chris Holm with resolution number 103, 2023, renew business lease for Net Lake Baptist Church. Good morning,
Morning,
Chris.
everyone. Hi. I sent you a updated business lease for the Net Lake Baptist Church for renewal with a new term. I attached the old lease for your review. All the previous lease conditions are the same. The updated business lease includes the usual business information, nonprofit status affiliation, certificate of liability insurance, a copy of the church constitution, and a copy of a letter that provides the church's designation for Jan Connor to administer the lease. That's what I have.
Okay, any questions for Chris on the renewal of the lease for the Net Lake Baptist Church?
Yes, my question is, why is it a business lease when it's not a business?
Well, under our IRS, I get some background, some feedback coming in. IRS regulations for tax exemption and 401k status as a charitable organization sort of fall under the, the business category. So that's why it's called a business lease. And they need those exemptions and that status to operate. So.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Chris.
Okay,
Any other,
thanks.
yeah, any other discussion or comments for Chris or questions? Someone's got their hand up. Darren. Darren, you have your hand up? Darren, can you hear us? We can't hear you. Darren, are you on?
Oh, can you hear me now?
There you go. Yep, we can hear you now. Go ahead,
I'm
Darren.
sorry. I was just wondering, does Boys Fort collect taxes or anything on business leases? Or do they charge for business leases?
Chris? No.
Where the church is concerned, there's, you know, there's no taxes collected. I'm not sure about other enterprise businesses or other businesses located on trust lands. I think Jeff might be able to comment about the tribal taxation or no taxation for businesses on trust land better than I could.
Okay, thank you.
Jeff?
So the ban, to my knowledge, doesn't tax business leases. You know, there could be certain taxable authority, but I don't know of a policy for taxation for businesses. And then in terms of leases, just like a residential or recreational lease, there can be business lease rent obligations. This lease historically had waived rent, similar to like a band member residential lease. And that's what's, I believe that's what the compensation structure is in this renewal lease as well.
These are issues though, not so with taxation, we would need our own taxation policy and ordinance for that. But with regards to the rent, that would be something that could be put into the comments for the leasing policy that's out there right now. If individuals want to comment on that, we'd appreciate it. So,
Yeah, I just thought if you're gonna tax you know, other people that are non-band members and not a church, might have to weigh the options and stuff on what you should charge for leases.
yeah, that would be the rent. I know that, for example, when you talk about taxes, Leech Lake has a taxation ordinance and policy in place, you know, because they have businesses on their reservation in that manner. But as far as like the church and other businesses, that would be under like a rent until if and when the tribe or tribal members want us to develop a taxation policy and ordinance, then we could move forward with that as well. So, okay. Thanks, Darren. Do we have a motion to approve resolution 103-2023? Moved by Shane. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Tara. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, silent, motion carried. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Next, we have Christine Lundemo. Is she on? Here comes Kim Greiner.
Oh, I know what it's for. I just don't, you could hear, I know. Okay. All right.
Christine? Thanks, Kim.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Sorry I'm late.
Hey, you're up.
Yes, I wanted to, we needed to get a contract, in place with A1 coating to complete the staining at the Vermilion Center, our large motor area. And then and then another coat on the early Head Start side that we constructed in 2016. So that's what I need to get approved by you.
Okay, and Christine, you've got the money in your budget to cover the costs.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions for Christine? Tara?
Are you doing this before the work has begun?
Yes.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
If no other comments for Christine or questions, I'll call for a motion to approve the independent services contract with Joshua Abelson.
I'll move.
Moved by Tara. Is there a second? Second by Shane. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, silent, motion carried. McWitch, have a good day and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christine. Okay, next we have Darlene Johnson with 4 items. Can you hear me, Darlene? You're on mute.
I forget when my muted, when I'm muted there, I have to do my unmute here. So I'm sorry, I apologize.
You're okay. Go
Um,
ahead.
Before I start, I apologize. A and D are the same. I did not realize that 2 got sent in.
Oh,
So
okay.
if we could take A off the list, I'd appreciate that. I apologize for that.
Okay.
So we'll go right to B, which is a resolution for the project team, which was out of the Ho Chunk tribe with, I know conversations went on with some Red Lake people for a storage facility assessment. And the name of the company is the project team who will be doing this. We will be using the fiscal recovery fund monies. And it's consulting service to assist for planning and assessing this feasibility of a self-storage facility. And the cost of that will be $4,000.
Okay, any questions on the resolution regarding the storage facility assessment project team? If not, I'll call for a motion to approve resolution 104, 2023 for the storage facility assessment project team in the amount of $4,000.
Move.
Moved by Travis. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Robert. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, silent, motion carried. Go ahead, Darlene.
Okay, resolution 105, 2023 is tribal government subsidy program assessment done by the project team. And again, the monies for that will come out of the FRF fund, which is ARPA. It's called the Tribal Government Subsidy Program Assessment for the amount of $8,000. And that's for TANF and 477, Taro, all government programs.
Okay. Just a little explanation on the government subsidy program. I think there's like 3 tribes possibly that are doing TANF, MFIP and food stamps and or SNAP. programs themselves, and the counties fund those on-reservation services because they're not providing it, but the tribes are. So in order for Boys Fort to move forward with that, that is a part of the 477 program where we can incorporate the TANF program as well. This is just an assessment to see how it's being done, because I know Red Lake is doing it as well. And so it will take legislation. So this is like a tool, an assessment to help us in the next coming years to see if this is a possibility for Boys Fort to do our own TANF and MFIP and SNAP on the reservation rather than going to the counties. So it is a long process, but we need to start that assessment. So any questions?
Yes, what where it talks about using money from the, where's it at? I just saw it, I just read it. From the revenue allocation, it'd be nice to give a update to the band members of how much we have in there and how much we've used to date.
Okay, we can get that report out. Good suggestion. Any other questions for Darlene on this tribal government subsidy program assessment?
I'd just like to make a comment on the assessment. I know you're way ahead of the assessment, but I think the band members that have to access these subsidies, make sure that they, get their voice heard. If they would like it in Nett Lake and Vermilion rather than the St. Louis County offices, which is Virginia. And if it's either or, we got to make sure that's clear. If we adopt this program, TANF and everything else, is it only on the reservation, or is it reservation and or, St. Louis County? So we got to make everything clear so that the people know exactly what they're getting into. Thanks.
Yep. With regards to the TANF program, basically the offices could be housed on either side. But this assessment will look at surrounding population, because it would enable people, I would think, even off the reservation to access services rather than having to go to Virginia. But this whole assessment, I think, is a part of that process that Tara's asking about with regards to getting tribal member input and looking at the costs, the feasibility of it and that type of thing. So I think it would be a good idea just to have that knowledge to say, maybe it is or maybe it isn't possible. So, but good questions, good comments. Do we have a motion to approve oh, sorry, there's a comment. Okay,
Darren has his hand up.
Darren?
Yeah, I was just to make it clear, so you guys won't be developing your own SNAP program. You're just looking at administering the program on the reservation, correct?
Correct. We can't develop our own SNAP program. It would be the TANF, the MFIP, the SNAP. It would be the same as the county, but we would be administering the program plus getting county funding for that.
Oh, okay, that would be great, having outlets on the reservation.
Yep. That answer your question? Okay, good. All right. Thank you, Darren. With that, do we have approval or a motion to approve Resolution 105, 2023? Moved by Tara. Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, second by Robert. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, silent, motion carried. Okay, Darlene.
Okay, the last one that I have is a modification to the SRF contract. SRF is the firm that we hired for grant writing. And their first grant that they've written for us or started on is for a solar grid project. And they started on the grant, and the original contract states that the grant deadline was March 31st, 2023. And they have most of the stuff together, but they brought it up a week and a half ago that could we ask for an extension? Because now the grant company extended it to deadline of May 31st. And this is just asking that it's an amendment to the original contract, no extra hours, no extra fees. Just giving them a little more time to gather some other information that would be pertinent to finish the grant. So it's just a grant extension date.
Okay, thanks, Darlene. Kim?
This is the grant, it's the grid resiliency grant, not the solar. It's the one that Carol presented. The feds changed the deadline for the grant. It was originally April 30th, wasn't it? And they pushed it back, so, and because this is ARPA dollars and the procurement and in the previous
Oh.
contract, it said they would have it done by April 30th, so. Just documentation.
Okay, thank you, Kim. Thanks, Darlene. It does get confusing. We're doing so much.
Right, I have the dates on here, and Energy Grid Deployment Office is where this came out of. Yeah,
Okay,
we're good.
all right. Do we have a motion to approve the modification to the SRF contract extending that deadline?
Move.
Oh.
Second.
Moved by Travis, seconded by Shane. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, silent, motion carried. Okay, moving right along. Mr. George Strong.
Thank you.
Good day, Darlene. Good job. Morning, Randy Long. Welcome back.
I'll present this for George. What we have is a contract for a billboard lease for KBFT radio. And this contract will cover the billboard lease through 2024.
Randy, do we know where the billboard is located?
I believe it's located just outside of Cook.
Okay. Any questions for Randy? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the contract agreement with Red Sunset Land Development for the KBFD billboard? Moved by Shane. There's seconded by Robert. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, silent, motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Keep up the good work. Okay, next we have Jalen Strong and Sarah Guy Lavar. No, no, you can sit there. Oh. Good morning. Okay, we're here today to have a discussion on Lake Vermilion Sedan Mine updated exhibits and museum to include and expand Bois Forte and Native peoples history. Go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Claire Croto. I'm the regional naturalist for the Parks and Trails Division within the DNR. It's a regional position, so I'm based out of Duluth, and I'm sorry I could not attend in person today. I'm going to be presenting with my colleague who is there in person, Sarah Guy Levar, and Jalen Strong has also been a part of this. So I'll just start off by, we can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So some of you may be familiar with the Lake Vermilion Sudan Underground Mine State Park, located in Sudan, Minnesota. That big head frame is sometimes something you can see from 169. So this site as a state park, it's known most for its underground mine tours that really represents 80 years of history during that mine's operation. We have an opportunity to redo the exhibits and the video at this site. And this is a great opportunity for us to not only interpret this 80-year history, but also recognize that this site has been significant to people for centuries. So we can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So as a brief project overview, the big idea as we look at this project and designing and fabricating new exhibits is that the valuable resources of the Vermilion Range drove innovation and changed lives. And then within that big idea, we have 4 main themes, which we will interpret through our different areas of our exhibit room. And in particular, I'd like to focus on that top theme, Native lands. Indigenous people are deeply connected to the land that became Sudan Mine. And so if we can go to the next slide, please. This is a little overview of the exhibit space, and you can see the A, B, C, and D. That's our main exhibit room. And B is what we call Zone B, and that is Sunset Glow. This is the area that we really want to interpret this concept of Indigenous people being connected to this place over centuries and still today. So I'll let my, the other thing I'll mention is Sarah's predecessor, James Pointer, had worked collaboratively with the Heritage Center in the past within this exhibit space, we had a few birch bark pieces from the Heritage Center, and we had a little informational paper that provided contact information for the Heritage Center. And what we want to do through these professional exhibits is connect people also to the Heritage Center, so where they can learn more about the Ojibwe people that live here today. So I'll let my colleague Sarah Guy-Levar take it from there. Thank you.
Good morning, and Buju, thank you for this time today. I wanted to share earlier this morning, I already shared this with Shane. I grew up in Aurora, Minnesota, and my neighbor down the road was Mr. Clem Bolio, whose mother, I believe, was a Bois Forte Ojibwe. And so Clem riced on Net Lake, and as a young child, he provided wild rice for our whole neighborhood for years and years and years. And so I grew up with Net Lake wild rice. And the only thing negative about that is that forever after, any rice other than Net Lake wild rice is subpar. So
Thank you for saying that.
I speak the absolute truth. And also today, I would like to recognize and have reflected in the minutes what an asset Jalen Strong has been to this project. I came into this project in December, and we are so grateful for his patience and willingness to help broaden our understanding of Ojibwe native language and culture. Thank you, Jalen. So moving on to the next slide. This is a proposed look of Zone B. So the group that we are working with took all of the information that we gathered and came up with this sunset glow as a proposal. So what we're hoping to have is a large photographic mural, and the one that you see on the screen there is just an example. We would love to have a voice fort photographer, either amateur or professional, to take a classic Lake Vermilion sunset photo, perhaps an area on the lake that is recognizable, looking west, of course, because we'd love for it to be a sunset. And so that is one of our requests today, is to help us determine if there is a voice for photographer, even amateur or professional, or if we are not able to, or if you are not able to help us identify your ideas for hiring somebody outside of the community, whether that would be an Ojibwe across Minnesota, whatever ideas you'd have, we are certainly receptive to them. Oh, I went out of order. So the next thing that we are looking for is there is going, you can go to the next slide. Thank you. We are, oh, go back one. Perfect. Ahead one. There you go. We are hoping to include a message in both Ojibwe and English. And so what we are asking for help today is the process for developing that message. The contractor that we are using to create the exhibit would be willing to create a template that, so you wouldn't have to start with a blank page, similar to other projects that they have done across Minnesota, kind of to keep that message consistent, but also to incorporate what you would like to have shared in that exhibit, and then also help us identify an Ojibwe speaker to do that recording. And of course, they would be commissioned to do the recording. In addition, we are suggesting to incorporate into the exhibit a large piece of chert that was quarried from the mine property. As you, I'm sure, all know, there are a number of Native historic sites on the park property. And I do have, it's a very, very heavy, oh, there you go. I say, strong Jaden, or Jalen, excuse me, can pass it around so you can see how heavy that is and how strong and hard it is, and easily to understand how it was used for centuries to create stone tools. Claire, is there anything else you would like to add?
Thank you. I appreciate that Sarah mentioned the incredible resource and assistance that Jalen has provided us over the last few months. And Kyle Littlewolf also really helped us in the concept design phase. So we have been engaging with Jalen and Kyle when he was at the Heritage Center to be advised on developing this zone of our exhibits. And we're coming here today with some specific pieces that we would like input at this stage, where even, Jalen kind of advised us that this would be a good next step for these particular aspects of the exhibit room. Jalen, do you have additional thoughts to add?
Yeah, essentially I'll pass a lot of that credit on to Kyle too, because he was up until he switched departments, he was the main contact person. So probably up to 75% of the project here was through him, and then this last little bit. So the idea of like adding the chart on there as kind of a main piece to it was, one of his ideas that he was really pushing for. And the importance of that is that because Vermilion Chert is so specific to that region, that it's called Lake Vermilion Chert or Vermilion Chert. And it's been found, all over the state and all over the country. But talking about some of like the past use of fructory rights stuff that we had then and that we're still kind of doing it today, so as like a tie-in for this was what we were using that land for as part of that. And there's other sites that they have within the state park. But now with the ceded territory, there's like a different level of access that we have to the lands that we're trying to keep relevant, because I know like there's a lot of exhibits and displays and stuff that kind of only talk about Native people as being of the past, or having black and white photos, stuff that you can kind of separate yourself from what we have now. And we used to have a picture of on our little design here with Squidge and his drum group on there, and it's like, well, we'll have to ask to see if they'd be willing to be on there. But having some modern day pictures and references and talking about like how we're still not only still here, but we're still utilizing the land, and the importance of honoring those treaties is something that we're trying to get across within the project and the exhibit. And I should say too, currently what they had was in that middle zone, it was just it's kind of a smaller glass table, and it had kind of like a printed out thing about a small little blurb of the history. So to be moving from that to an entire like panel and interactive portion of that visitors area is a big step up. And one of the things that we try to have, or we try to advocate, is that a lot of times organizations want to have a Native face but not a Native voice. And I think this is kind of one of those steps in like not necessarily providing a voice, but allowing us to have a say, like a seat at the table type of, so to speak. So that's what we've been trying to do. And one of the things that whenever we do develop a message, and I think if I'm thinking right, it's section 106 or the 106
106 group.
Yep.
106 group.
That's doing the design for that. And for a lot of archaeological surveys and cultural surveys that I've been a part of since I've been hired has been with the 106 group. So they some of their staff has been able to spend time with, come up here with me to spend time with Jean and Wiz and Karen, talk to these people about certain cultural aspects. I'm under the understanding that I believe that they're have the knowledge and are willing to like allow us to have kind of the foremost authority over what message is being sent by this design.
This is very exciting. And I think that I want to say Chi McGwitch for Jay and Kyle, and also the DNR for allowing or asking us to be a part of this, because sometimes we're just forgotten. And so I think this is a big part. And I just want to say that I know that we have some amateur photographers out there that I've seen. They've kind of posted some of their photos they've taken of either Net Lake or wherever. And there are some very talented people out there. The one thing I guess I would like to suggest, and this is just a suggestion, is that we get in touch with Millie Holmes about the elders, having the elders input with regards to some of the, like you mentioned, the message. That would be a good starting point for you. with the elders because they're our most knowledgeable and our speakers, Karen, and those that are left. So that's just my suggestion, but maybe we could get something out to ask people to submit photos. Vermilion specific, like you said. But maybe Jay, if you could head that project, that would be great.
Yeah, I can do that. And I was gonna say too, if there's anybody watching or listening, the only requirement, I guess, is that we need the file size to be big enough so that because I think the idea is that we want to blow it up, to have a big portion of the display as the sunset. And sometimes whenever we're taking stuff on our phones, it gets pixelated once it gets spread out. So just if there's anybody listening, we want to have a rather large, I guess, file size.
Okay, I hope everybody heard that because I'm a phone picture taker. Go ahead, Nick.
Darren has his hand.
Aaron?
Hey, as a KBFT radio employee, we could probably help get the word out there for photographs. We could even set up a page on our website for people to submit pictures to. It would be very helpful. I don't know who's going to print the picture, but to find out, the dimensions, megapixels, all that requirements. So when people do go out and take pictures, it'll be, of good quality.
High resolution, I believe, is the word that we're looking for. I think. I'm amateur.
What is the timeline for this project?
Our hope is to have installation by this February. So that's why we're starting this request now, because that's going to come up quick.
The reason I asked is, we have our website as well as KBFT and that, but a lot of our tribal members don't access the internet. So if we could have something put in the Bois Forte News with that, Jay, if you want to write something up or put something in the Bois Forte News. I know Brian Anderson is always looking for articles or whatever, but maybe with that timeline and the information needed and then the high resolution pictures and
Brian did reach out to me,
project
so
itself, because I think it's a really, really great idea.
we'll make sure that that happens.
As I stated earlier, when our chief signed those treaties, they signed them, they did not know what they were signing, but they signed it with good intentions. And that basically they were taken advantage of. Our people were taken advantage of when they signed those treaties. Now, something along the lines of, I would like to see something added to address that. I'm going to read something from you from the Stephen L. Pewar book. How are Indian treaties interpreted when a dispute arises as to their meaning? Many disputes have arisen over the language of Indian treaties, often involving valuable interest in land, water, minerals, and hunting and fishing rights. The Supreme Court has developed 3 rules that govern the interpretation of Indian treaties called the canons of treaty construction. First, ambiguities in treaties must be resolved in favor of the Indians. Second, treaties must be interpreted as the Indians would have understood them at the time the treaty was signed. Finally, treaties must be construed liberally in favor of the Indians. As the Supreme Court noted in 1999, we interpret Indian treaties to give effect to the terms as the Indians themselves would have understood them, interpreting them liberally in favor of the Indians. These canons of construction benefit the treaty tribe, as the Supreme Court intended they would, to help compensate for the fact that tribes were at a significant disadvantage in the treaty-making process. Now, with that, when our chiefs signed that treaty, the 1854 and 1866 treaty, it did not give us treaty rights. What it did was ensure that our treaty rights would continue on. And myself, I'd like something like that added to a statement at that exhibit. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's one of the messages that we were here and that we're still here and that we're still utilizing the land in the ways that we have not necessarily always been doing, but have been doing.
There is in the design, when we have been discussing this part of the project, and Claire can attest to this, if I've said it once, I've said it 20 times. This is an area that we have to get right. And we have to not go into waters that don't belong to us, I guess is the best way to say it. And so Jalen has been very instrumental in helping us navigate those waters. And another reason why I'm so appreciative, because it does need to be recognized and addressed, but we also know that it's not our story to tell. And one of the primary goals of Zone B is really to direct people to the Heritage Center, to the so that we are raising awareness and acknowledgement. Shane, does that, oh,
I do have a question. So the items that are gonna be, at your place there, Sedan Mine, are those on loan or are we giving them to the Sedan Mine?
They're on loan. I don't know. I guess I haven't looked for like loan agreement paperwork or anything. But I believe the ones that are currently there state that they're on loan from the Heritage Center, and then I haven't updated it because last time I went over there, I think they had the wrong hours, or maybe the wrong like admissions fees, but they were higher, I guess. So.
and my understanding is that those items are not planned to be used in this exhibit. So they would be returned unless we were allowed to use them for a temporary exhibit or, but they would be returned because they are on loan.
Okay, good. Any other discussion or comments? Very exciting.
I'd just like to say, with the history of mining that's impacted our reservation, Vermilion was where we were, and we had a lot more land around the area. Being able to tell that story of being moved away because, pretty much because of this mine, that's a big story. It needs to be told. It helped bring us over through Net Lake and everything, but just the impact that it had. People were moved from their homes, and it's just kind of heartbreaking to talk about it. So that type of history has to be known, and we just got to get people more informed on it. Thank you.
And I think that's the key is not a lot of people know our history. And this is an opportunity for us to tell it. And we appreciate the opportunity to tell it ourselves rather than have someone else do it for us. So I think that this has been a long time coming. There's a lot more to go, a lot more to do, but it's a step in the right direction. So any other comments for the group?
I think that, when we share the stuff with you and the other departments and programs and stuff, it's not to shame anybody, it's just to share our story, our knowledge, our history. Thank you.
So true, so true. Because we can't hold today's society or people responsible for what's been happened hundreds of years ago. And so, but we appreciate the opportunity to tell our story. So, gee, McWitch to both of you, and good luck with the project. And we look forward to seeing it when it's completed.
Which we will keep you updated.
Great, thank you. Gee,
Thank
McWitch.
you.
And then I'll just say, as a parting thing, behavioral health is doing a mental health awareness month, so we're wearing my green today for Wednesday.
Oh, yes, thank you for reminding us. Mental health awareness, wear green on Wednesdays. Yep. Oh, he's wearing a Seahawks stuff. Okay, G. McWitch. Next, we have Kim Greiner with 4 items. Thanks, Carol, for helping her.
Okay, good morning. The first item I have is our insurance. A little bit of history for the audience on this is currently we have our property liability insurance, et cetera, through Travelers Insurance. Travelers, unfortunately, felt that us selling the edibles at Fortune Bay was too much of a risk exposure. So they reached out and is canceling the tribal government property insurance, also, all our insurances with Travelers. Fortune Bay had known that they were doing it, and our cancellation date is May 15th. So we reached out to Boyd, our agent from Range Reliable in Virginia, reached out to Tribal first. And they came to visit us, and we had a meeting with the council. A couple of things. So we've been going back and forth getting proposals for a new insurance. There's 2 areas that we're not solid on yet. Really, if you look at this, and a couple things I wanted to point out. So, and a couple decisions that need to be made. So this is their revised proposal that Boyd sent me this morning. Like under Travelers, we had $1,000 deductible with equipment. So like or a vehicle too, the first round that Tribal first proposed had a $5,000 deductible. So that, that we've kind of went back and forth, stuff like that. Couple things that need to be noted is, so I'll just read the memo so we can go through it one. Attached is a business proposal from the Tribal first. On their property proposal, they increased coverages at some locations that they were felt were undervalued. That typically happens over time, you up the values of buildings. So a total increase of property value went up by $1,347,690. One thing is after, if we decide to go with them and bind them and all this, because there's a series of decisions this impacts, they're going to come up within this first 60 days and inspect all the buildings. But also here in our appraisals for my next 2 things, it has the property buildings. And so the property cost is probably going to go up more because we're probably still undervalued. On inland marine coverage, that's the equipment type stuff. So like 4-wheelers, dozers, there's a range. All contractors' equipment, including snowmobiles, ATVs, will have $1,000 deductible as the same as building and context. contents, because at first, their first proposal was $5,000 deductible. So we went back to the 1,000, but the equipment that's worth over 100,000 will still have a $5,000 deductible. We have, so at first, their first proposal for buildings in coverage in flood zone A, under travelers, we had a $250,000 deductible if it was in flood zone A. We have 3 buildings in flood zone A. Tribal's first offer was no coverage. But Boyd went back and we do have that, and it's a cost of $14,454. I would say, because if we would still have to probably go get coverage from the National Flood Insurance, so pay it, yeah. One positive is there's a deadly weapons coverage included in Tribal First. This is, this is different from law enforcement liability, professional liability. They wanted a 5,000 deductible on vehicles, but they did come back to 1,000. And so that's about 12,000, but is, that's like basically three things with us, and we probably have 3 things a year. So I would say go back to the 1,000. When they first had quoted us, the sexual misconduct liability, they only had us covered at $1 million aggregate. We needed 3 million, and they've changed that. Medical malpractice is one area we were questioning on it because it was considerably less than travelers. But on their coverage, they do not list specific doctors, where I know for sure we have it on one of the contracts with the doctors that we have to have them specifically named. So we're going to have to we need to go back and look at every provider's contract and see what we need to get. And we'll probably have to shop for more. And annual property cost is going to be just property is going to be $123,124. And so the property coverage is going to change because right under travelers, everything renewed on 10/1 with our fiscal year. So for property coverage, it renews on July 1st every year. And so we're going to have a short-term thing. Annual general liability and auto cost is $149,000, and then the medical malpractice under Tribal First is $446,000 versus where it was $19,000 on the other one, and so we're trying to do that. The other thing that we're working on is the cyber coverage. They have a standard package which is not sufficient. And Randy's back, so we got to work more on that. But we need to have a signed statement of values. We have to have a signed Tribal First application. I did not calculate the cost difference because we're not all the way through it. In one of my earlier emails a couple weeks ago to you, I kind of had compared the cost. And now that we're going back to our same coverage, it's going to be slightly more. I would say like 25,000 off the top of my head. Also, the other thing is that this is so Jeff, I hope Jeff's on. It is over the threshold of where it should be sealed bid type proposals, but it's extenuating circumstances, and Jeff did that. And I don't know if we need to come back later and paper that up with a resolution, Jeff.
I don't know if we necessarily need a resolution, but definitely some sort of narrative that justifies non-competitive. And I think an emergency exigency based on timing is probably appropriate, and there may actually be a sole source justification if the types of insurance that Tribal First offers is really not available elsewhere.
Yeah, and then the only other question when we first got notice, because we've had notice like 6 weeks now. We didn't have much time to do this. The Tribal First had bid on our insurance in previous years. And we always went with Travelers because Travelers was, for their property insurance, was admitted to the state of Minnesota. So that means that if the insurance company fails, they have a good enough rating that the state of Minnesota would pay their shortfalls. I think the property provision of this is not admitted, but they are like A+ rated company, insurance company. And we tried to get clarification because old Stu Monty from the BIA a long time ago had told us that if we're using BIA funds to pay for our insurance, we had to have admitted carriers, so you had that extra coverage. I did reach out to the BIA and IHS, and no one responded to me. And so it could have been something Stu had, or it was kind of an internal policy that wasn't written down. We don't know, but Tribal First, what did they say? They do how much percentage of tribal business, tribes in the United States? It's like over a majority of the insurer, over a majority of the tribes. So, you know, being that said that there's some slight change, you know, changes, and we got the medical malpractice and the cybersecurity to figure out yet. Now it's if the council wants to proceed with this company.
I kind of feel our hands are tied, first of all, by Travelers giving us very minimal time to, first of all, for canceling us on May 15th and giving us minimal time to find additional coverage. It's hard because it's, you know, we've been with Travelers for a long time. And so trying to find new insurance and get all that information, the buildings updated, and you know, new items that like the malpractice, cybersecurity is huge. You know, we have, I guess I myself feel that, you know, with Tribal First being an A+ company and dealing with other tribes, that they must be a good company why they're still with the other tribes. And they've been willing to work with us on a expedited process here because we're going to be without insurance in 12 days. And so I guess I'm okay with moving forward with Tribal First because that's the only proposal we have. Tribal Council?
One thing is that when we approved the smoke shop and we were going forward with it at Fortune Bay, and then it came out that the Travelers was going to covering us for insurance. So they put the smoke shop on hold. They said that they would continue to cover us insurance-wise if we agreed not to open a smoke shop. And to me, it's like, no. No, that's a mean, it's a business for a tribe, you know, a means to generate more revenue. And so I'm in favor of moving forward with Tribal First. Thank you.
I just have a few questions, Kim. So roughly, Tribal First, you said would be just over 25,000, you know, roughly.
Yeah.
Over Travelers. Okay. So does Tribal First, do we know that they're okay with us with the edible and smoke shop that we're going to open? And then hopefully they don't increase or do exactly what Travelers has done to us if we explore marijuana with the new bill that has been passed, you know, recreational or anything like that. So that's what I want to make sure that, you know, that we're looking forward when we're dealing with these things.
Well, it's kind of unusual why they canceled us because we had two separate policies. We're tribal government. They're the entity. It was far reaching. We even have different insurance agents, you know, and so they really overreached, we feel, their boundaries, right? In the meantime, too, the state of Minnesota is in the process of legalizing it for recreational purposes. I couldn't even tell you if, like, let's say, if Minnesota legalized it, if Travelers would still even keep us. Because Travelers wanted a letter in writing for at least 2 years not to open it. Yep. And they said they may consider it. They didn't say they would cover us. And then Mayan can talk about theirs because theirs is on the agenda too, under Mayan. And I think there's something in one of my emails, I was looking for it, but if Mayan can speak up to theirs.
Mayan?
Yes, thanks. So when we looked into this, Kim, right, we didn't know you guys had a separate policy, so we didn't know it was going to affect you. We already knew Travelers wasn't going to cover us, so we were already researching other insurance companies. Once they came in and we were all in a BFDC meeting and said to Kim that they were going to drop you because you're going to do edibles. Anyway, the point is we found out, I had Brad reach out to the insurance company, and they do cover recreational and medical marijuana as well as edibles currently. So that insurance process will be covered in the future, in our future developments. So on ours has an increase also. Ours is going to increase about 15,000 a year, which is less than we expected, to be honest with you. When you're increasing the risk of the businesses you're doing, it's only a little over 1,000 a month increase in our insurance, and we still have 500,000 cybersecurity and ransomware covered within our policy of the update. So really, it's a matter of when you guys go forward and approve the insurance on your side, our side is ready and we can move forward on currently the edibles. And then when it goes recreational, or if we decide to do medical instead, however we do it, this insurance company does cover that as well.
Thank you, Mayan. Carol?
So I just wanted to let you know, when we were at that conference last summer, they discussed the hemp and the marijuana and the medical. To keep in mind that they had issues with banks letting them keep the money in there. So they had to go like across state lines. Just another little heads up before anything goes forward with that.
Yeah, we've had talks about the banks because Kim keeps us on our toes. One of the comments I want to make is that I did actually submit, not submit, just made the Department of Commerce aware of Travelers Insurance. Department of Commerce within the state deals with insurance companies, and told them that we were denied or were being cut off our insurance due to our smoke shop. And, questions have been asked about on the Zoom about why we didn't check into insurance first. Well, you see these stores, you see Zoops, you see all these outlets outside already having hemp products. And we think part of the problem might be is that because we make sure our T's are crossed, our I's are dotted, and we have that insurance coverage. These other places I don't think are maybe notifying their insurance companies that they are selling these products or whatever. I don't know. Yeah, they're falling under the radar somehow, but yet we're targeted. So by doing this smoke shop and other tribes are doing it. And so it's just a matter of the policy of Travelers that they did that. And, it was at no fault of the tribes. It was at no fault of anybody with regards to this, because a lot of others are doing it. It's just the insurance company themselves, I think, that have the issue, and let it be that as it may, but we're going to move on with our tribal first insurance if the council is okay with doing that today.
And thanks for the comments on the bank, Carol. When our auditors come and they would tell us stories of the tribes that they audit that have recreational marijuana, and they've talked about the banks, and because they're all cash businesses, basically, pretty much. Some CDFIs and credit unions are risking because taking the money, because the feds never changed the banking laws when they changed that law. But nobody ever talked about the insurance.
Yeah.
And so that one really blinds, you know, and like we were two separate entities. And so we've talked about like, so the city of Cook has their little CBD shop or whatever it is. The city had to give them permission to have that because the state then had the municipalities have to vote, I believe, to have that. So city of Cook is not covered by travelers. They probably have a different thing, but you know, are other insurance companies doing it? And what it comes down to is travelers is just really extremely conservative and it's their choice. And not that I like it and I don't think they're treating us fair, but even if we had the opportunity to go back, I don't think I would want to go back.
No, I think, you know, the amount of revenue that we probably lost because of their decision to not insure us, you know, and it just like makes me shake my head.
We were ready to go with the smoke shop. And we've been pushing, and Maya knows it. I mean, we've been pushing to get that going, and then we had to put a stop to it because of the insurance. So like Shane said, we did miss out on revenue and stuff, and people keep asking, when you're going to open your smoke shop? Yes.
Darren has.
Darren?
Okay, so the state of Minnesota legalized, or well, it's gonna legalize marijuana, or it already has the edibles, but it's still a federal crime, you said, right?
Correct. The federal government has not approved or legalized marijuana. So even though the state had or will be, we cannot do any sales on reservation.
Okay, so the tribal government owning Fortune Bay and having ties with, I guess it would technically still be an illegal company. Would that affect any of our grants or funding or anything to do with the tribal government, since it's mainly federal stuff we get?
Here's an example. We can, and this is just a scenario, okay? If marijuana is legalized in the state by August 1st or whatever, as long as we own properties on state land, I believe we're able to sell. Is that correct, Jeff?
Well, I think just maybe jumping back to Darren's question, I think there's just an important clarification about the initial enterprise plan for the smoke shop. That is a plan to sell products that are legal under Minnesota law, that are also then legal under federal law, because what is authorized in Minnesota right now are hemp derived edibles. And the Controlled Substances Act under federal law has been amended so that hemp is legal. So it's really important in these discussions to distinguish between marijuana that remains a controlled substance under federal law and hemp or hemp derived edibles that are not controlled substances. And so I just wanted to clarify that point about the legality of the smoke shop in terms of the basis for it. And it's the same products that are widely being sold throughout Minnesota that were at least planned to be sold in the smoke shop. So just wanted to make that note.
That clears it all up. Thanks, Jeff.
Well, to Darren's question, he asked about the grants. So in talking to auditors that have done that, so they keep, you know, that, so they're like in Washington or Oregon, you know, the tribes that they were telling me about, that they keep the money completely separate because there's a whole cash issue anyways. And they don't even use that extra revenue as match for grants, just because they're not clear yet on that. But they can use it for other things such as like investing in other economic development or something else, you know, that isn't tied to our grants and stuff. Yeah. Yeah. But I, you know, and that's been a couple of years since I've had that conversation. So, and it could have changed in I'm sure someone's made some progress on that.
Okay. Shane?
I think that if we are going to look at selling at the Y store, we need to find what jurisdiction does it fall under, what township does it fall under, and apply to that city or whatever it is, just to make sure that we have all our ducks in a row, if that's the route that we're gonna go.
Good discussions coming up. Oh, another, what, Mayan?
Thank you. Yes, so I was just gonna mention, because the question came up about grants and funding and how that works. So the Flandreau tribe in South Dakota has had a recreational business, since 2020. And I have a meeting with them. I've already met with them early this week on Monday, to do a proposal, and we're gonna go down to their facility next Wednesday, to see their whole grow facility, their recreational, retail outlet, and to talk to their legal on how that works. So we can definitely ask questions. And if anybody on the council would like to make a trip with me over there, you're more than welcome, because maybe we can talk to their tribal government on how that may affected their grants and other things within the tribal government. But they've been running and operating there since 2020. And I'm going down there to meet with them on Wednesday. So the invitation is open to anybody that wants to go over there as well.
Big witch, Mayan, thank you. Okay, now getting back to insurance. Is the council okay with moving forward with the first, tribal first? Do we have a motion to approve tribal first?
A second.
Okay, motion made by Shane to approve moving forward with tribal first insurance. Seconded by Tara. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, silent, motion carried. Okay, good. Now I have a question because it's going to lead up to your next topic. Kim has a huge binder and a half here. With regards to 105L leases, which you're going to be bringing up, they cover operational expenses. Do they help with insurance costs?
Yes.
Okay. All right, now moving on to your next topic.
Let me. So 105L lease is a funding mechanism for 638 contracts, basically, I believe, if I'm saying this right, for between tribes and for operation of some of the Indian, they call Indian programs, you know, under the BIA.
Yep.
And IHS functions. When, so like when the IHS and BIA actually ran the programs on the reservation, they built their own buildings and had space.
Yep.
And then tribes started to take them over, the programs, and administer themselves, and then we got into self-governance. But they never gave us building costs, and they never give us enough space or resources to build a new building. So tribes have had to kind of go out and get their own funds to provide space. And so they come up with this 105L lease. It's been around for a while. We do currently have 3 buildings in it, and that's the Net Lake Clinic, the Vermilion Clinic, and the SUDS program, or Hideaway Pines in Vermilion. I will. I was going to tell you what I was going to. Well, it's because that's like when we when we were emailing Nikki about the agenda, it's like, do you really want all this? And I have to say that Randy and Jeff and I have been working on this for a while, probably. So, so here says, what are operation and maintenance expenses? It's water and sewer, utilities, fuel, insurance, facility management, supervision and custodial services, custodial maintenance and supplies, pest control, site maintenance, which includes snow and mud removal, trash and waste removal and disposal, fire protection, firefighting services and equipment, monitoring and prevention of maintenance facilities, structures such as HVAC, plumbing, electrical, elevators, boilers, safety, security, roof, foundation, walls, and floors, unscheduled maintenance, scheduled maintenance, including replacement of floor coverings, light fixtures, repainting, security services, management fee services, and other reasonable and necessary operations or maintenance costs justified by the contractor. So in 105L lease, there's 3 ways basically you can negotiate for your funds for a facility that's housing a BIA or an IHS function. So that's the test, so we went back to our funding agreements and tied these spaces to what's in our funding agreements. The method we're using is called the fair market lease value method. If we were to go lease this space, what would it cost us to lease it? So we're getting that, we get that information and we negotiate, and they came up with a square foot. And then we had to look at the buildings and determine what part of the buildings were performing an IHS function, what part of the buildings were performing a BIA function, and what's called common space. And so that's like if two people were in the same office, but one was IHS and BIA, and there's no wall separating them. And then that's common space is the hallways, bathrooms. So like this building, we have BIA functions in. So like this large room is a common space. And then the shared space is the one where you have both functions in there. And then there's non-covered spaces. Some of the buildings do have programs that are not eligible, because they're not a BIA or IHS function. So we started this project probably a year and a half ago, and we hired FI Salter Company out of Duluth to do these appraisals, and we've been working on 33 appraisals, building appraisals right now. And now we got to the point of we have the appraisals, and that's what this is each one, there's a tab for each appraisal for each building. And then Randy took and we talked about what was going on in each area, and Randy did the split out by, you did it by square footage and drew line, made notations and stuff like that on the floor plans of how much space was here or there. And then Jeff and his, one of his co-workers, Madeline, prepared the letters and the resolutions to go with them. So I have, the first one we have is the BIA one. And so there's a resolution. And so in that resolution for the BIA, it's part of it, is the Boysport Government and Community Services Building, the DNR building, the Fire Ambulance Community Center, but only that's one of those buildings that's shared. So it's only the fire is in the BIA. Boysport Health and Human Services, that's a shared building, so it's only the ICWA area that's covered because that's a BIA function. Part of the Vermillion Center, because that's a shared space, the Boysport DNR garage, the DNR water quality garage, Boysport Public Works, the tribal court portion of the building out there, and the telecommunication hut. The police department, half of that building is owned by the BIA, so we can't negotiate for that. At Boysport Forestry, 2 buildings are ours and 2 buildings are BIA. So we're resolving those. And so there's a resolution, and then there's the resolution for you to approve for the BIA, and then there's a updated letter that is about 7 or 8 pages. It's 6 pages long, I guess. And it says in there how much of the square footage. It refers to all the exhibits because these are all the exhibits that have to be submitted with the letter. And this will begin the negotiation process. So you can see where in there, and then it says, it has the fair market rental value in there, and it says how much of this, how much of each building would be in there that we're trying for. It doesn't, this is a negotiation process. So that's that. So the BIA one is ready to go. And then we're going to come back once I get the proposals we have 3 more areas we wanted to add for the BIA, right? That in talking with Scott Cameron, we want to do the 2 communication towers and the fire watchtower. And get those, so we have to get the,
Add it
but
on.
we can add. And so what happens is we put this in, we don't have to do this a great big process every year. We have to propose a renewal with like an inflation rate. It's going to change a lot of like cost structures of the reservation, funding opportunities. So programs, so let's say DNR was maybe paying their own bills, like that's a small building. Let's use a bigger one. Let's use Public Works. So they're heating their building and they're paying that out of their operating or their tribal, it's called the base allocation, basically it's supposed to be for operations, but they're paying their space costs out of it. So now they're going to have a budget that we would have, they get a lump sum, they would have a separate budget for their building costs. And they would charge all those items that I listed there to there. So then that frees up dollars in their programs for services or additional staff as needed, whatever they do. And everyone's different on their square footage rate and stuff like that. I'm going to use one simple one, is the sand salt shed out at Public Works. That is a building that's providing a BIA service at 100%. Our proposed amount to the BIA for that building per year that we would get, would be $18,792 per year, where, Patrick's paying for the insurance, any electricity or whatever out of that. But you don't budget and spend all the money because we can say, we don't have to spend and lose it. You save it for replacement. So if the tarp tears, you have a replacement fund to replace the tarp or fix it. Stuff like that. And then on top of that, we get contract support costs, which is not even in here. So another story. There's this. So we're using the fair market lease value. I mentioned another way is if you build a building without federal funds, you can negotiate on actual cost and get depreciation for replacement value. And you can have, you get depreciation and you get replacement value. And then you use the IRS tables for the cost elements. So like a roof is scheduled to last 20 years. You get over 20 years, you get 1/20th of the value of the roof. You put it away, and then when it's time to do that, it does it. Or there's even the third method is a combination. So you do use the fair market value for the most of it, and then you come back and use a very specific item that needs to be replaced and negotiate it. So not in the BIA one, but on the IHS one, which is next. I specifically made sure that the appraisal company knew that we have a new generator at Help that's brand new. And so now we can start negotiating that one a different way in there and get money for when, I don't know we have to look at the IRS table to see what the useful life of a generator is. And then we have funds for a generator at a future date. So the BIA one is ready to go. We need approval. We need the resolution and then the letter, and then we'll submit that one. And then we'll talk about the IHS one after.
Okay, first of all, I just want to say a huge Chimig to Kim, Jeff, and Randy. This has entailed a lot of time and effort and work to put this together. When you see that binder, when you're having 33 building appraisals, that's not a small chunk of work. It's huge. And, they've been working on this for quite some time. And I just want to say thank you very much for your efforts, because this program gives the tribes opportunity to free up more additional dollars that we've been taking out of our base levels or our base funding amounts. And this program allows us to get those operational costs paid for by the program, by the BIA or IHS, to free up the money to use in, that we've been currently using to put in different services and staffing or whatever. So this is a huge project. And I just want to say again, thank you very much for all the work that you guys have done. It's a lot. It's a lot. On top of everything else that you're doing, we keep adding things, and this is huge. But to have it finally close to completion, you say there's a couple things you want to add, but with it ready to go, that's great. And then the negotiations will start, and then this will happen annually each year as we go along. So it's a much appreciated effort on you guys' part to again, make those dollars stretch out and use additional resources and funding. So do we have a motion to approve resolution 106, 2023 and the letter for the BIA, I was gonna say BO5, BIA 105L lease application package?
I'll second.
Moved by Tara, seconded by Travis. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, silent, motion carried. Okay, get into IHS now, Kim.
Okay, IHS, we need two things. So we wanted to get the resolution approved. And then the letter will change slightly.
Okay.
We need, for the IHS letter to go in as is, we need a copy of the lease for the I Falls office.
Okay.
We need a copy of the executed lease, and I don't know who has that.
We'll find out.
Okay. And then Randy was on vacation last week, and we just gotta figure out the final square footage for them to put in, and that's a small thing. And
Okay.
So he just got back today.
Okay,
Those are the two things. So basically, that's what
the
needs.
lease and then that update. Okay.
Mhm.
Any questions on IHS? If not, I'll call for a motion to approve the resolution 107, 2023 and letter IHS 105L lease application package. Once we get that additional information to you as well. We have a motion to approve that.
Move.
Moved by Travis. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Robert. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, silent, motion carried. Great job, you guys. Wow. That's all I
Okay.
can say.
So going on with that, we're having the three buildings we currently have in there.
Yep.
They're, we already approved and they're already in the process. They were here last week and we're reappraising them because of when we did the original appraisals, was it 18 or 19? 18. And
Yeah.
so between
That's 5
the property
years.
costs going up and healthcare facilities skyrocketing in the pandemic.
Yeah.
We're reappraising. So,
Okay.
and if the appraisals come back and there isn't a change, we don't have to submit the new
Okay.
appraisals. But we have a feeling of the way these ones came in, it's going to be a significant change for those three programs.
Good.
Then I have approval from the council to enter into the contract for the Plesha building. We had to buy the building first before we could have it appraised and
Okay.
then start negotiation.
Okay.
The appraisal company is updating the contract to reflect the new dates,
Okay.
and we'll do that. Then the last one I want to talk about for right now is the Public Works facility in Vermillion that we're going to be
The
constructing.
new one.
Yep.
Okay.
Once we get the certificate of occupancy for that building, we can go in and negotiate. And so the food shelf area, we're trying to put under IHS,
IHS.
under nutritional services.
Yep.
So this, we're trying this. And then the part that's for roads would be under the BIA, and then the common areas would be covered. And so housing isn't eligible for the program. So the space that's allocated for the housing vehicles would be ineligible. The Head Start would be ineligible, so there'll be partial money to fund some of the costs at that building.
Along with the DNR building that we're looking at
Yep,
as well. the new
DNR, but
buildings. Okay.
We're
let's-
actually farther along.
Okay,
Yeah,
got it.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Good job.
Uh-huh. I think that's, and then the AEOL or OEO shelter over in Palmquist, once that's up, if, you know,
IHS.
we tie it with IHS.
Yep.
Because there'll be some of those services that are eligible under IHS there. We'll be able to negotiate for some funds for that too.
Good. Wonderful.
Yeah, and we are being a little, when I had talked to Chris Poole, I think you were on a call with me with Chris Poole from IHS about a year and a half ago. I asked about water and sewer infrastructure type stuff, and he said nobody's ever tried to pursue it, but in our funding agreements, it has water and sewer in there. So we're trying for the maintenance cost of the water towers and the pump houses and all that. So we're trying to be maximizing our money.
Yeah, you never know unless you ask, right?
Yep.
And water and sand falls under IHS?
Mhm.
It does. So good job. Look forward to hearing the answer on that. Okay, Kim, you have one more item.
Okay, is this?
Do you need
the
to
last?
take a break or catch your breath? No, just kidding.
I'm all right. The last item I have is the selection of the company to direct our software selections. So we have a lot of software needs that we need to update, mainly the accounting, all the stuff around finance. But we've added an HR needs a better software. We need a better timekeeping management system. We need a grants management system. And then that's what went out in the proposal. But now we should be also probably looking at facility maintenance system to add into their selection. But we were looking for a company that would come in and do a review of our needs. And they would go out and, because they have the contacts of all the different vendors that work basically for tribal governments. And they would get their proposals. They would narrow it down to 2 proposals and make suggestions to us. And then then we'll move into the second part where they'll help us design our implementation phase. Because like with the accounting software, we have to look at what we're going to do with our chart of accounts, maybe, you know, are we going to redesign that? Are the account numbers going to be shorter, longer? You know, how do we want to reorder them? So all like health is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 instead of all over the place. Because it was originally alphabetical. Just stuff like that. So we got a lot of work to do. And I sent it out to 6 companies, and how I picked the 6 companies to send to, I went onto the Federal Clearinghouse website for audits, and I looked at various tribes to see who they were using for auditors. And I got contact information. I sent it out to 6, and I got 5 proposals back. And then we had a group of people rate them per the rating sheets. You guys have the rating sheets in there, and you have a summary, and then you had the RFP, the summary, you have all the other ones. Our group has selected CLA as the company we would like to go with. And so the next step would be, if you guys select that and give us the go ahead, we can start negotiating the contract, and we'll bring the contract back for approval.
And like, oh, excuse me, go ahead.
This whole process, by the time we get done, is probably going to be around $500,000. Because depending on the software we get, and all these softwares and the trainings and the implementation, it's a big, long project. We did get a grant for the initial part for the $50,000 for hiring the company to start the search.
Well, my question is, looking at the 500,000, what that cost, where's all the money coming from for that?
We are going to, I am first, because this is due this week, is we're working on our BIA end of year funds. I'm going to put in a request for some of it there. And the remaining, we're probably going to have to obligate out of the ARPA funds for the revenue replacement. But we're to the point that we have to have some of these softwares. And then they'll, and in the process, they won't only just talk to accounting. They're going to talk to the council, they're going to talk to grant managers. And it's going to be a comprehensive thing because it'll change that a grant manager can go and look at their grant right online, and then they can download it into the grant tracking software to do their reports and kind of stuff. More real time.
And just so the audience is aware that there has been a tribal finance assessment done on Bois Forte along with 2 other tribes. That was at no cost to Bois Forte. It's part of a native governance pilot project. So they've actually come in and done a lot of work that would have cost us, I would say, hundreds of thousands of dollars just to do what they've done at no cost. And so I think, though, that by incorporating all those different departments into a software will be very beneficial and more cost effective, but also more better at getting information out and getting up with the times, I guess, if I could say that. Being more tech savvy in our accounting area, but also for our tribal members as well, with regards to their billings, their whatever they receive for, their billing statements for water and sand or rent, everything will be updated like that. It will also be beneficial for that HR component for the department to incorporate all the new items rather than, right now we're all paper. And this way it'll help eliminate some of that processes that we're doing and make it a more smoother, faster transition, right? But it's very much needed. And I was just going to say, I love the how you set up the rating criteria and everything that you went through, the RFP process. Great job. Great job.
Good question for Randy. Once we get going on this project with the software, how long will it take to implement?
Once we have the determination for what we feel is the correct software for each department, it could easily be a 1-year implementation timeline by the time it is installed and our staff are trained.
What about the like the computers and stuff for like accounting? Will they need to be upgraded? And
No, I feel the current infrastructure for accounting is up to date. Our current server environment is up to date, and we'll be able to install and maintain anything that's out there right now.
It is going to take some time with training. And, we ask that everybody be patient with us when that time comes. Yeah, gotcha, Nikki. When that time comes, because the staff are going to have to learn the systems. And for them to learn the systems, it's going to take time. It's something that they may not be able to, get done in a day. It may take months to train, and they're going to run into some obstacles or some questions or whatever. So we just ask that you be patient also with us once we do get it implemented.
The software chosen won't necessarily be hosted on site, though. I would highly recommend it to be cloud-based by the company that provides the software.
Darren has his hand up.
Darren, go ahead.
The $500,000, is that it includes the firm cost, and then does it include the purchase of the software and the training also?
Yeah, and we wouldn't necessarily be purchasing the software. You basically buy the licenses after our initial setup and stuff. And it wouldn't be there would still be an ongoing license fee, but it does have, that's my estimate of the whole project from the time of, hiring this firm to the implementation, the planning of the implementation, how we talked about the structure of the charts and the training and the support, probably through the first year of it. So it's a big project.
How much are we paying the firm just to do the research?
I think it's 58,000, I think was, I don't quote me on that because I looked at it and I've had so many numbers in my head. I can pull-
Okay.
Yeah, no,
Thank you.
that part isn't the spendy part, you know.
Okay, Randy, is a lot of the support, and I'm hoping that with this software that we get, that, and I believe the EHR system, the Epic system offers training for onboarding staff and whatever. Is that included in the annual cost too?
That will be kind of a necessity for ongoing training and cost moving forward with this project. The software review company will assure that that's in place
Good.
for us. That was one of our stipulations for reviewing the software.
Good, because you think about staff turnover and people retiring and whatever, and, you know, currently we have our current staff trying to train people, and, you know, it takes them away from what they're doing to help do that, where if we have it automated in software, they can kind of do it on their own and use those individuals for technical assistance. Okay, cool. Okay, any other questions for Kim on the selection?
I'd just like to make sure that I'm heavily involved with the process when it is, when the new software is selected and the transfer from our old AS400 goes into the new software, or however that's implemented. I need to be there at every step because I want to know, I want to make sure that everything prior to that is, you know,
Okay. The new,
inserted.
yeah, the data that's on the AS400 will not be going in the new software. We will always have the AS400.
Okay.
We owe that.
Goodness.
Yeah. No, we're not going to keep it, but we have that. It's a physical piece on the racks in HR or in HR and IT, and it's there, and we have access to that data. The
I would
beginning, like the
estimate
beginning balances are.
at least within a 3-year time period, they will be utilizing 2 systems. Just to verify, we
Yeah.
have direct access to the previous data and moving forward, implementing that data over a length of time into the new system. That's going to assure us that the data transition goes through smoothly and accurately.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, the AS400, I didn't know we were keeping that. I thought it was going to be, you know, I thought that was all going to be transferred over and it's going to be one system. The AS400 is just, I just am not pleased. You know, I want to make sure that that system is, I thought we were going to 100% this new software. Everything was going to be new and in one place.
No,
I did not know that AS400 was still going to stay.
yeah,
I'm just not confident in AS400 that it's staying with the old system. I think everything should be updated where I can just, if I want to research something from, I don't know, year 2001, I should be able to do that at my fingertips. That's what I would like. Apparently it's not gonna be that way. I don't like AS400 and I don't like that it's kept in, you know. in
well,
that
we're
old
not,
software.
until we were able to choose a new software vendor, we don't know that's not going to happen yet. But the AS400 should be kept around just for data retention anyways, for that 3-year time period. To our best, we're going to try and transfer that information into a new system. I know some of it will transfer, all of it, that I'm not sure. But that will be dependent upon the software choice.
Okay, all right, just keep me heavily involved.
Okay, any other questions or comments on the CLA recommendation? Not, I'll call for a motion to approve the approval of the software consultant as CLA. Moved by Robert,
I'll second.
Second by Tara. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, silent, motion carried. Good job, you guys. Yay, we're moving forward. Okay, next we have Brad. Or is that Mayan?
That could be either of us.
Oh, hi, Brad.
Good morning. Kim already kind of hashed out, the insurance needs and why we're in the situation we're in, so I don't wanna, go and rehash that too long. But basically what we're looking for is approval for Fortune Bay's policy. Kim had kind of touched on that earlier, that even though it is the same company, our policy is separate from the tribal government's. So we're just looking for approval on Fortune Bay's policy through Tribal First.
As mentioned, it's only a difference of 15,000 extra compared to the other insurance policy, and it does have the cybersecurity coverage as well.
Okay. Any questions for Mayan or Brad on the tribal first for Fortune Bay? If not, I'll call for a motion. I thought you were raising your hand. If not, I'll call for a motion to approve tribal first insurance for Fortune Bay Resort Casino. Moved by Shane. Is there a second? Second by Travis. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, silent, motion carried. There you go, guys.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a good
you.
day.
You too.
You too.
Okay, next we have Miranda. Good morning, Miranda.
Good morning. Again, I'm back. Social media policy was tabled a couple of meetings ago. It was sent, the council wanted it sent to senior management for review, comments. It was discussed at a senior management meeting. I'm sorry, I don't fully recall what the comments were at that meeting. Maybe Luke or the other senior management in the audience can remember what the comments were. But for the council, to refresh the council's memory and those online, I presented to you two different social media policies. The first one was presented to council a number of times. What you have in your packet, Jeff recommends to remove the first bullet point in that one. And then the second one, Chairwoman Chavers brought back from Gila River, I believe. Yep. And so there's that one for your consideration. There is a highlighted portion of the second policy presented to you. And I believe we were going to remove that, if I remember correctly. And so it's presented to the council again for consideration. We do not have a social media policy here at the tribal government. I'm going to venture a guess to say we're probably one of the few companies, tribal governments, not to have a social media policy. Again, the social media policy would provide our employees some guidance, because there really isn't any guidance to our employees what they can and cannot share on social media, their personal social medias. And also provides guidance to our supervisors, managers, directors, you know, should an employee put something on social media. So here it is again for council's approval.
Like I said, when we first started talking about this and I asked for it to be tabled, one thing I asked was that for us to sit down and have a meeting so we could discuss what this policy is going to do and what it can't do. And as an example, when a band member employee is off work on their own time and they have a disagreement with the decision that we make as a tribal council, and they get on their Facebook or whatever, that should be their right. You know, and that's what I mean by what does it cover, what doesn't cover. And I'd hate to see this policy used in a manner that it's not intended. And that to make sure that the tribe, we as a tribal council, as tribal government, are not infringing upon band members' Indian Civil Rights Act. Like I said, if they disagree with the decision that we make, that should be their right to voice that. They shouldn't be afraid. But myself, I'd still like to have that meeting before this is approved.
Shane, one of the questions that was asked me is, you want a meeting, who do you want at this meeting? So we know who you want at this meeting.
Well, of course, it'd be the tribal council, Luke, Randy, Miranda, let's see, I don't know anybody else that you could think of.
Because this morning when I saw it on the agenda, I remember Shane's comment about wanting to meet on it, and we haven't had a chance to meet on it yet. And so we are going to still leave it on the agenda, but also get clarification on who is to attend this meeting, because we know you requested it previously. And, you know, I agree with Miranda. We're probably one of the few tribes that don't have a policy, but it just sounds like there's questions. And I don't know excuse me, I don't know if senior management had any issues or questions with it. Luke, maybe?
It must have been like a 90-minute discussion. There was a ton of questions. I think ultimately we did agree that there needs to be something in place. I think we ultimately agreed that we have a degree of professionalism, especially as supervisors, to not talk about work. There's many discussions on family. If family was talked about, could you do it? Could you speak as a band member? You all are more than welcome to come to our next senior management meeting. I think that'd be the more appropriate time to discuss this.
I think that the other one too that should be invited is, of course, our tribal attorney, Jack. And that, you know, like as an example, you're looking at the policy right now, discussion and display of information related to the programs, activities, services of the Boisfort tribal government. You know, as a tribal leader, when we have people asking us questions and we post stuff on our respective group pages or pages, and band members ask us stuff, then it's just going to prohibit us as council members from speaking.
That brings up the, first off, let me say that that is the number one that Jeff recommends to remove.
Yeah.
Because a lot of our programs do share information about events and things like that going on the individual
Websites.
program social media page. So a lot of like, you know, some of our programs have social media pages and they share their events on there. So by removing this, that allows them to do that. By leaving it there, we would be telling that program, you can't do that. So that's why Jeff recommends to remove that. The other part, and I do remember this comment coming up at senior management, is there's always this question about tribal council members.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some of the personnel policy applies to you, some of it does not, and that is determined by tribal council itself. So I would think you would probably say, yes, this social media is going to apply to us as council members, or no, it would not.
I know that I did get a copy of Fond du Lac's social media policy, and also spoke with the tribal council, a tribal council member from Fond du Lac, and they actually included their tribal council in their social media policy. For one reason one example they gave was they had a tribal council member that had his phone, his work phone, and he had his, you know, Facebook or whatever account on it, but his wife used it. And so they included themselves because they feel they, you know, lead by example type thing and be responsible. One of the reasons I picked up the Gila River one I saw was posted in the Gila River government office on their bulletin board for public use. And I liked it because it kind of detailed a little bit about types of social media activity. There's social media use during working hours, which, you know, that happens here all the time. You're posting on your pages, your KBFT page, you know, that type of, that always has to be on there, like technology policies, you know, that type of stuff. But it also says for non-work social media use, this is just the Gila River example. Employees must also take care in their social media use outside of the workplace. And it says that their types of social media activity which may interfere with the workplace include posting information that is confidential or privileged, or is harassment based on sex, race, ethnicity, tribal affiliation, national origin, religion, or handicap is prohibited. If an employee is identified as an employee of the Boys Fort Band on social media, he or she must make it clear their posting or comments are their own opinions and not those of the Boys Fort Band. Employees should not use their work email addresses to register on social networks, blogs, or any other online tools utilized for personal use. Work email addresses should only be used for authorized official work purposes on social work networking purposes. Workplace conflict expressed through social media is never acceptable. Employees are more likely to solve work-related conflict through speaking directly to their coworkers or supervisors than posting complaints or grievances to social media. And then it just says violation of this this is Gila Rivers now, violation of this directive or conduct on social media that interferes with an employee's work performance and duty and or adversely affects the Boys Fort Reservation Tribal Council may result in disciplinary action, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, it kind of outlines the on use, but also a guide to what they can and can't do. It's more detailed. So, but we can set up a meeting with the senior management, the council, Jeff, Luke, with regards to this to hopefully finally come up with a policy that everybody will be happy with. But we do need one. So if we can set up that meeting, Luke, I was looking at Luke and I called him Jeff. Sorry, Jeff. And get this back on track.
I think one thing too to point out is that with the social media policy, yes, I'm for it to a certain degree, but it shouldn't be a means to try and control or muzzle people from speaking up or speaking out. If we are striving for an open, transparent tribal government, then this policy shouldn't be used to muzzle that. I'm for an open, transparent tribal government. And if this policy hinders that, then basically it's defeating the purpose of what we're trying to strive for as a tribal council, as a band.
Okay.
I would like to comment also. If this social media policy is passed, you know, with those, I shouldn't say with that intent, but if it's passed and it's still in this form where it's discouraging any disagreements or you know, anything said to hurt somebody's feelings or whatever, you know, whatever's going on within a workplace setting, or if somebody disagrees with any of us tribal council members or anything, you know, if it's still designed and stifled that way for the employee, then I do think that we should incorporate a like a red flag or anonymous tip line for employees or tribal, you know, anybody with the tribal government or enterprises to be able to voice their opinion, or if they have facts about any certain thing, that should be able to, that's their outlet. Because if an employee has information or anything, you know, and we do the social media policy, then that stifles them. So there should be another outlet available to people to voice their opinion or present facts or anything like that. So I think that we need to have like a tip line or something to help their voices be heard. Maybe we should have it anyway. So that's my thought.
And when you mentioned tip line, I think that's a good idea. We've talked about a tip line, not just for turning in illegal activity kind of thing overall. But I think, you know, we had discussed this, but maybe broaden it a little bit more for what you're looking for, like the red flag or whatever, because a lot of people know, basically, first of all, they know your voice, but second of all, they know kind of who's sending whatever. But if this is an anonymous thing where you can type it in or whatever, or however this could be incorporated, even in the community part with regards to any type of illegal activity, because a lot of people are afraid to say anything because they're afraid of repercussions. And so maybe that's something we can discuss at this meeting as well. That's a good idea. Okay, Miranda?
So recently, I became aware of the red flag reporting at Fortune Bay. And when I was talking with Beth Adams, the Director of Human Resources over at Fortune Bay, when that system was set up at Fortune Bay, I'm sorry, I believe it was Barb Brodeen I was speaking to, but I did talk with Beth Adams about it. They're under the impression that that was also put into place for here. But that happened when I wasn't in human resources. And so I just haven't been able to really dig into that
Okay.
yet. So I will definitely check that out. There may have been something where they didn't think it was going to be a good fit here on the tribal government, or I'm not really sure, but I will look into that because originally it was apparently supposed to be set up for both entities, the red flag reporting. But I don't know if I was like, what is this? I don't know what this is, because I got a notification that I was signed up for it or something, and I thought it was a scam, so I deleted it. And then I come to find out, like, hey, this is a thing at Fortune Bay, and they thought that we also had it.
You know what, Miranda, I think you're right. But I think what happened possibly, and I'm not sure, is that we went through executive directors and I think it got lost in the shuffle.
Possibly that.
I think that might have happened at that time because I remember that it was supposed to be for both sides, now that you mention it. And I think it fell through at that point because I think there was a change in the executive director positions and just kind of fell through, like I said. So,
So
if you
I
can
will
research that, that'd be great.
Yep, I will try to have something for when this the meeting is set up for
Okay,
this
good.
issue.
Okay, good.
I have one more question. If anybody has the memory.
Oh, good Lord.
I think this might have been, I don't think you were in, maybe, I don't know. No, you weren't. No, you weren't. You weren't in HR, but when was the last time that social media has been brought to an RTC meeting? Wasn't that in 2020? Was it 2020?
Oh my God, it was
2021?
Wasn't it between 2012 and 2008 and 2012? Because I
No,
remember
it was, no, oh, I'm sorry.
when it first was presented.
Yeah, presented.
Okay.
But it was talked about in a senior management. I'm sorry. It was talked about in a senior management and it was, we were trying to like put it forward, or council gave the directive to get that social media policy done. I remember and recall that the executive director at that time had said that this social media policy will be in, you know, will be approved. I think it was, well, it had to be before July 24th, 2021. So I think it was sometime around then is when the tribal government was looking to approve it. So I just want to make sure that because we're looking at it now, I don't want any employees to be worried, to have the thought, you need to hurry up and get your voices out there before they pass this social media policy, which will muzzle us. You know, I want to make sure that that doesn't happen. If anybody does say anything on social media to hurt any of the council members' feelings or anything, so be it. I'm not going to be hurt by that. And I hope that somehow we can get that gain the trust of our employees, to not be afraid of voicing their opinion. I do not want this social media policy passing with the intent of stifling or bringing any fear to any employees. Thanks.
I think the other thing too is that, as an example, if the council makes a decision, you guys all went for it, what I didn't. If one of the band member gets on my group page or my Facebook page and says, I know this went against it, why? Then I should be able to talk about why, granted that it's not confidential.
Yep.
See what I'm saying? Because it was done in open session.
Yep. I
shouldn't have to worry about, oh, somebody's gonna get a petition me out of office because I talked about what I did at the open meeting.
That doesn't, yeah.
So that's why I say that we need to really flush this out and what it's intended to do and what it can't do.
Okay. Can we do a motion? I threw this, Miranda, motion to table, again. Again.
Oh,
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, silent, motion carried. Okay, thanks, Miranda. We have the ICP policy. Hold it. We did review it on Monday. And we were going to move forward with the recommendations. Just a, yeah, go ahead. Oh, sorry.
Now I got to start over. Okay, so when the Indian Child Protection and Family Violence Act policy came, we started looking into the policy, and it was myself, Luke Warnschulz, Pam Parson, Lynette Tattinen, and Jeff Wolf. And so historically, if a position was had regular contact with or control over Indian children, vulnerable adults, and elders, it was considered a suitability position here at Boys Fort and required the highest level of background that we conducted. So when we were revising the policy, we expanded it to include vulnerable adults and elders. And so that was originally presented to council. Council approved it. I did some work with the directors, Pam Parson, and health management did some work to determine which positions were going to be covered by this policy. When it was all said and done, it was a very high percentage of our employees, a very high percentage. And due to what could be a disqualifying background, there was some concern. There was concern from employees, there was concern from management, and probably concern from council. So we presented it to all staff, concerns came forward, and then it was decided to revisit the policy and to take out the vulnerable adults and elders. So now, just like the law requires, remember, we expanded the policy to more than what the law required. Now the policy is just what the law requires, and it's contact with or control over Indian children. And then we also had some, I don't know if you want to call it confusion. We wanted a definition of what is regular contact with or control over Indian children. Is it just black and white? You have to, contact with a child, you're covered. And so it came back with a number of hours per week, I believe. And it's 13.5 or 13.25 or something. So if a position has regular contact with or control over Indian children, to that hourly amount, and I can't really find it here, so I apologize for not being certain on that number of hours. It is a covered position. So it still is organization-wide, so it is any position within the organization that has regular contact with or control over children for that specified number of hours. That's going to be a covered position, and it's going to be subject to the highest level of background, which includes fingerprints.
I think it's 1/3 so that they would cover like, not full-time employees as well.
Is that what it is? Thank you, Jalen.
Yeah. So if you were like working only 20 hours a week, if over 1/3 of that was working with
Okay,
kids, then you would qualify.
okay. Thanks for that clarification, Jay.
And so this is now, I'm sorry, council wanted the proposed revisions given to senior management for their comment and review. We were going to discuss it at a senior management meeting, but the actual meeting where it was going to be discussed was canceled. Luke had asked senior management to please respond to me with the information that I was requesting, which was, the changes, the proposed changes to the policy. I did hear from one senior management member and they agreed with the proposed changes to the policy.
It's a federal law that's been in place for quite some time, but I think what brought it to the forefront for us is that with Health and Human Services and the Inspector General and all the compliance issues and whatever, it just kind of brought it to the forefront. But it is in most of the contracts and grants I hear, federal. So, and it's just it's a good thing to have in place to protect our children, so. Do we have a motion to approve the ICP?
Move.
Made by
Second.
Shane, second by Tara. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, silent, motion carried. What should we have as an effective date? Do you want it immediate or you want to send something out or?
We have the all staff meeting next
Oh.
Tuesday.
Yep.
I think that would be good to add this to the agenda, give everybody a quick highlight. I believe all of the positions are identified already, but it would
Okay.
be good to have senior management just take a look at that list again. So maybe we do May 15th. I don't know.
Do you want to do a June one? May 15th?
We
Okay.
could do either one. Either one works for me.
May 15 effective date, guys? Okay. May 15? Okay. All right, effective May 15th then, Miranda. Okay,
Okay.
great, thank you.
Anything else?
No,
Okay, thanks.
thanks so much. Keep up the good work.
Oh, Luke, for that meeting, that social media policy meeting, I had one of our elders just message me and, maybe we should invite the public, the band members. Maybe they can, sit in and voice their, opinions and thoughts and stuff.
Okay, we have burned house next. Burned house. You brought it up.
One of the elders brought up the burnt houses that we have and with our powwow coming up is if we could get something done to maybe address the first one, at least the one on the corner maybe, and the second one after. And I know that we were looking for funding. I think we were looking for funding from IRRB, but I don't know, let's open up the discussion.
I was just gonna say that Peyton Counts said her program should be able to pay up to like maybe $500 to help. If I think the idea was to have to do like a independent contract or something like that, Wicco, and then to basically hire people to help clean it up there, and then the Heritage Center also has funds to put towards that if just on the smaller ends. I know probably the IRRB is the project for that is probably going to be a lot bigger in terms of cleaning up the area, but just for smaller items and damage that can be removed, I guess there is funds available to hire people, I guess. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Thanks, Jake. Kim?
Doris and I think Randy at times and Chris Holmes. Is that who else has been working on the demolition stuff, Doris? No, just you? Well, Doris wrote up a request for the BIA year-end funds, which we're having a meeting on at 3 again today. And to pair that with IRRB dollars to remove those, to clean up those sites. But the houses that were under housing, that are owned by housing, one of the more recent ones that were burned, the insurance should pay for that to be removed, the demolition. So that should be there. And then on Jay's thing about hiring people to do it, if you're gonna hire, I would just do an RFP and have like a cleanup service to do the one, if you're gonna do that, but the council would probably have to add funds to it from somewhere. Because us hiring people, there's a whole bunch of liability that goes with it. And on the demolition houses, and Tara, I'm relying on your environmental experience. Some of those had to be abated too, right? Like there's a whole because if there's like linoleum and lead and
Especially when it's been burned.
Yeah.
and Runoff, yep.
Yep, there's a whole lot of other stuff that goes with it. But I just wanted to let you know that there are people working on getting funds to get them cleaned up.
My question to Tara was, I know the one home was not a HUD home, but it was an older, very much older home that was built in about the asbestos and that type of stuff in it. I can't remember when that home was built. Doris, do you remember when Buster's house was built? Oh, late 60s, early 70s. Okay. So, you know, the environmental part about that at the asbestos, and I don't know if that's an issue there or not, but I know that was one of the oldest homes.
And Carol, you might be able to dig up, I think we did an inspection at least for lead on that. So I don't know. So anything else, asbestos and other indoor air quality items might be in a report somewhere too for that home.
I think there's a number of people that are working on this or have talked about it. And from what I understand is that the houses in Nut Lake were out of the taconite service area. But there was going to be discussions with IRRB to see if they can work with us on that. And so we haven't been able to get information from Vermilion. And so there's still work that needs to be done on that. But we're hoping, you know, IRRB has their grant deadline is July 1st. And so that's my goal, is to get something in there. But I'm not really sure who's going to head up this project, because Chris is working on it, and I think Randy's talked to IRRB. And so we'll have to get our act together here.
Okay, I see Chris has his hand up, so maybe he can, Chris? And then whoever's other hand is?
Patrick, and then I was just gonna say
Patrick.
Janelle is on too if there are questions about the housing ones.
Okay. Hang on, Patrick. We'll come to you next after Chris.
Patrick was first, just so you know.
Patrick, go ahead. You're first. Then Chris.
I was just gonna say, Chris and I have been working some prices to get everything cleaned up, and we've got pricing to do all the 7 houses in Net Lake and Palmquist. We don't have anything put together for Vermilion yet, but we got everything together for Chris to get down to the IRRB, and Doris reiterated that she's also working on getting some BIA end of year funding for this as well.
Thank you, Patrick. Chris?
Okay, so as what Patrick said, I'll build on that. We did the inventory. There's 10 buildings up here in Net Lake, 7 burnouts, 3 abandons. There's at least 1 abandoned down at the point. Patrick did get me a contractor cost estimate for the Net Lake buildings. And I turned that over to Chris Ismail at IRRB, and I need to have a conversation with him because as has already been explained, they don't typically cover Net Lake uh, uh, because of the taconite relief district issue, but there may be something they can do. So that's where it's at. IRRB has the cost estimate, and I'm seeing what they can do as far as turning around some funding for it.
Okay, Miigwech. Thanks, everybody, for your input. That's a lot of buildings, though. Okay.
So is that a yes or a no that that will be done by powwow time? Do you know? Or are we giving a possibility? No.
No.
Okay. Okay, just wondering.
Doris?
This is off the subject, no, separate from Burns, but as I sit in the audience and I'm speaking as a grandmother, and I haven't been involved in the discussions about the background checks, but from what I understand listening is that a person with a bad background that has either done some kind of harm to a child or a vulnerable adult can now, or they can be not subject to that if there's a limit of 13, if they have no contact with 13 hours of contact with them. If they don't have 13 hours of contact with, say, my grandchild. But what concerns me is that it only takes a couple minutes for something to happen. And I don't want to take that chance with my grandchildren, just like any of you would. And so that's a concern to me. Also, my second concern is what kind of message is that sending to people that have done harm to other children? You know, that's okay, that we can do it just a little bit, you know, if we don't contact, we don't, if we find a job where we can work, and if we don't have 13 hours of contact with that child. I just couldn't sit in the audience and not say nothing because, like I said, I'm concerned. Thank you.
Thank you, Doris, for your comments. And Miranda left, but we'll relay those concerns as well. And it is to basically anybody that's going to have that amount of hours, like you said, Doris, it just takes a minute or so, or even a few minutes. But anyone that's going to be possibly working with kids over that is automatically subjected to the background where that would come up. So it's like with Head Start, Boys and Girls Club, Health and Human Services, some of them, those are automatic, you know, that they'll be the ones, but it's the other departments that we ran into. And the other ones we were really discussing with summer youth. Also, that was a huge topic of discussion with summer youth because they are temporary, but if for example, we always use Kim as an example when we talk about summer youth. If a department is requesting a summer youth worker, then her department would have to go through those backgrounds. So where before it wouldn't because they're not in contact with youth because they're in the office. But just having that summer youth. So it's been a lot of discussion and a lot of good discussion, but we appreciate your comments and understand your concerns as well. So we may have to modify, we may have to make it more stringent, we may have to, we just don't know, but we're taking our initial step first and then, but people in contact with kids will have to have this background done. For sure, on a consistent basis, like I mentioned. So, but thank you, Chief McWitch, for those comments, Doris. Okay, next we have Tracy. Thanks for waiting, Trace. You can sit wherever you want. Just hit the red button over there.
Got red button? Hi, I'm Tracy Dagan, co-chair with the Lake Vermilion Powwow, traditional powwow. Asking for approval for our raffles that we have every year. The button raffle, pick your own raffle, and the 50-50.
I'll move.
Second.
Second by Rob.
Aye.
Moved by Robert. Is there a second?
Second.
Move. Second.
Aye. I move to adjourn.
Second.
Second by Robert. All in favor?